Good morning and welcome to this month's edition of Oak Hill Regional Community Development Corporation's third Wednesday Parent Resource Chat. As you know, my name is Bettina Campbell and I am the Social Service Coordinator and I am a Medicaid CHIP assister for the Oak Hill Regional Community Development Corporation, which is the parent corporation for Get Covered Mississippi. For Healthy Kids Mississippi. We will also have with us this morning Lottie Minor, who serves as the project director for Oak Hill Regional Community Development Corporation, and Mr. Thomas Duke Robinson, our metrics and technology director. We recognize our board chair, Jennifer Garrett, and our executive director, Dr. Michael O. Minor. In addition to this Zoomcast, we are also restreaming today's webinar on our Oak Hill Regional Community Development Corporation and our Healthy Kids Mississippi Facebook pages. Please feel free to share your pages, your social media pages with us. During the month of September, there are many national awareness observances, such as National Hispanic Heritage Month, National Literacy Month, there's a Sickle Cell Awareness Month, there's Baby Safety Month, and there's National Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. And all of these are very important that we be aware of them and that we strive to work to help to reduce health disparities in these areas. However, today what we're going to highlight with our guest, Ms. Kim Snodgrass, is National Childhood Obesity Awareness Month. And also we have our own Anita Norsworthy, who will talk to us about the mental health connection. So before we get started, I would like to introduce you to Kim, since she is one of our new guests. And Kim, I feel it's only fair to give you a warning that once we get you, we keep you.
Sounds good to me.
Know that you've become a family member now. Kim currently works as a renal care coordinator, and she's worked for over 20 years as a registered dietitian, nutritionist. Kim has attended the Lutheran High Kim attended Lutheran High and Westland High schools in Westland, Michigan, where she graduated salutatorian. She received a Distinguished Scholar Award from Mary Grove College, which was in the form of a full paid tuition, y'all, and that's very important. To get out of school not owing anybody anything, you're doing something. And she graduated there as cum laude while obtaining a degree in Bachelor's of Science in Human Nutrition and Food, which is a science major. So you can see that she comes to us well qualified to talk about the subject that she's going to talk about. She's also the national spokesperson for the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. And she is the first African-American to hold this position from the state of Michigan. Woohoo! Kim states that only 3% of registered dietitians, nutritionists in the United States are African-American, and she's proud to be included in that number. Kim says she desires to make a change by going into the communities to educate people on the importance of healthy eating and to improve health disparities. And she just loves working with the Detroit community where she grew up. She's happily married and she has 3 children. And she enjoys attending church, baking, and running. So we see that she's a well-rounded person. Kim, welcome. But before we get started with your presentation, I wanted to encourage our guests today to please share again on your social media platforms. And then I want you to make sure that you have your pencil and your paper and are ready to write down your questions or concerns, because we will, after Anita finishes her presentation, have time for you to share some of your questions and for these 2 very knowledgeable women to be able to answer your questions. So I want to say thank you for joining us again today, Kim, and you may start your presentation.
Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction, Mrs. Campbell. I really feel so very blessed and honored to be with you all today. I'm going to share my screen so that you're able to see my PowerPoint presentation. Is everyone able to hear me okay? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. All right. So I just need to get this into the slideshow part. So just give me 1 second. I may just have to scroll through it because I always forget how to, slideshow. I always forget how to start the slideshow.
At the very top where it says slideshow right next to animations, you should be able to start from the beginning there.
Oh. Say that again, where it's near annotations?
Animations, like at the very top to your left.
At the very top. I can never find that. I think this is covering, there we go. Give me 1 second. There we go. Can you guys see that?
And all you have to do is click from the beginning and we should be able to start from there.
Okay. Okay, and from beginning. All right, sorry about that. Always a technical difficulty, but we won't let that stop us, correct? So again, my name is Kimberly Snodgrass. I'm a registered dietitian nutritionist. I am happily married to Pastor Kenneth Snodgrass. Again, as Mrs. Campbell stated, I have 3 beautiful daughters, Peyton, Rachel, and Hannah. I am lead usher at our church, and I just received that position. I'm excited about that. The holidays are upon us, so I'm going to definitely put those baking skills to the test. And to keep myself in shape, I'll utilize running as my exercise. So I thought those were important things to share. Also, I'm pursuing my master's of public health at the University of Michigan Flint. And I'm very happy again to be here with you all. So just to get right into our talk, we're going to talk about why do the social determinants of health matter, especially as it concerns childhood obesity. Okay. One more question for IT. How do I advance the slide from here?
If you can, you could hit the arrow button.
There we go.
Okay.
Okay, there we go. So we're going to talk about how the social determinants of health, how it affects childhood obesity. What does that mean? What are the social determinants of health? Well, I like to define it in a simple way. They are the non-medical factors that influence our health outcomes. So some of the non-medical factors that influence our health outcomes are the places we live, where we learn, where we work, where we worship. And so those social determinants of health, they affect obesity. And we're solely here to focus on childhood obesity. We're going to talk about the importance of parks, fast food restaurants, neighborhood homes, and our schools and education. But if you pay particular instance to the slide that I have, it shows that there is a vicious cycle of childhood obesity. So if you look at the child at the top, they start out very healthy. But then as children progress to become older children or teenagers, they get into video games, they get into tablets, they get into phones. And I know that firsthand because I'm a mother of 3. And so that inactivity plays a large part into why we are experiencing a huge climb in childhood obesity, especially in the United States. If we look at parents and grandparents who help raise children, they're working, they may be in school, they may be stressed out on their jobs. And what do people tend to do when they don't have a plan? They turn to eating fast food. So that child who started off healthy could become an obese child, which would in turn turn into an obese adult. And so what we have to do is work together so that that's not a problem for us. We have to work on reducing childhood obesity. If you look at this slide, you'll be able to see my beautiful daughter, Hannah. She's my youngest. And what I try to stress to my children is that it's important to get outside and have activities like jumping rope, riding our bikes, going to the park. Hannah likes to play, but my older two, they're less hesitant to go outside because they do have tablets and they do have phones. And I believe as parents, we have a God-given responsibility to stress to our children that our bodies are a temple. And so we have to take good care of it. And part of taking care of it is being physically active. So we definitely stress that physical activity. Many people now are saying that pediatric obesity is a form of a public health emergency. That's because we're seeing so many kids that are obese. The pediatric obesity rate has increased to 21% between the years of 2011 and 2020. That's a huge amount. And so what we have to do as parents and grandparents, because grandparents help out a lot, is to get the kids out the house, get them on some sports activities at school, encourage them to go outside and play. And we also have to look at ourselves. Are we getting out there with our kids? That can be hard at times, but if you try to work that into your plan, it definitely can be done. Now, this is a teenager. We all are familiar with this, teenager sitting on the couch. But what I like to do is counsel my patients to retrain the way they think about exercise. Small increments can count. I work out about 15 minutes, 5 days a week, which is very small, but I had to start somewhere. We want to work up to about 30 minutes, 3 to 5 days a week. But, we have to take baby steps. I can see sometimes on the weekend relaxing, kind of laying around on the couch watching TV a Friday night or Saturday night. But if you do this every day after work or school, you definitely will become overweight and possibly become obese. So you cannot allow yourself to turn into a couch potato, if you will. You have to try to stay active, whether that's walking, whether that's swimming, whether that's going to the gym, whether that's going to do a mall walk. All of those count as forms of activity that you should try to do most times during the week, 4 to 5 days a week. Try to be active. This again is my youngest daughter, Hannah. She's eating her fruits and vegetables. And you have to remember that children mimic what you do. So if they see you eating healthy, 9 times out of 10, they'll eat healthy as well. What I like to do as a wife and as a mom and as a dietitian is to make sure I cut up fruits and vegetables and that I leave that out on the table for the kids and my husband to have when they come home after work and after school. That's important for me because I want them to be healthy. Fruits and vegetables are full of fiber, and fiber keeps you full. And so that, again, makes me feel good because I know I'm doing something good for them. I want to keep down the obesity rate. And so feeding my kids and feeding myself and my husband the proper things, that's going to pay off for us in the long run. If we look at the facts, we know that children and adolescents from age 2 to 19, about 1 in 6 of them are overweight. So what we want to do is reduce those numbers so that we're not moving towards obesity in children. I always say, make it a family affair. This is my family, my husband and my children. We're going out for a bike ride. We're modeling those healthy behaviors. They have bottles of water there. And I always tell people, make sure that you're hydrated. A lot of times when you think you're hungry, you're actually really thirsty. So make sure that you're drinking your water first, staying hydrated and checking those cues because there's hunger cues and there's thirst cues. So typically before you reach for food, especially if you're trying to watch what you eat, drink some water first. Make sure you're not thirsty. And I think that's what I always try to preach to my husband and my children. And they listen most times. But again, we want to make things a family affair. We don't want to just tell our kids, go outside and play. We actually want to take time to go out there with them when time permits. This is another example of us taking our kids out for a walk along the river walk. Walking is an excellent exercise. Before I started running, I walked and I built up my endurance so that I could run. So we take a lot of family walks. Those are special times when the kids can tell you what's going on in school, what's going on in their lives, how are they doing, any problems they're going through. You have to treasure those precious times. And I feel that as parents, sometimes we're so rushed and we're so stressed and we don't slow down enough and listen to our kids. So it's important to slow down, to listen, and again, to model those healthy behaviors. Taking a walk, that's excellent exercise to help reduce childhood obesity. Also, remember to expose your kids to things that you never did. Taking your kids to swim. Now, I myself, I don't swim. I don't know how, but my girls do. Typically in the summer, I'll take them, I'll get their hair braided or they'll wear it natural and we'll take them to a park. We'll let them swim. I'll let everyone get in. I'll build sand castles with Hannah and we'll have fun that way as a family. But I shied away from swimming because of my hair. I never wanted to mess up my hair, but you shouldn't let things like your hair keep you from being physically active. This is Hannah again, have a lot of slides of her, where I'm encouraging water play. I said, don't shy away from the water just because your hair is beautiful. And water play and swimming is excellent forms of exercise. So the most that you can do is preach to your kids that being active is going to pay off for you. And I think that my kids over the years, they really get that mommy wants me to be active, to eat really well. And so they try to model those behaviors that my husband and I have passed down to them. So it makes us feel really well that we're doing a good job as parents, the best that we can with the help of the Lord. This is my middle daughter, Rachel, with one of her friends from summer camp. They're laughing, they're having fun, they're hanging out at the pool, they're getting really good exercise. And so if you slow down and just say, am I mimicking the right behavior for my child? Am I allowing them to take, extracurricular activities so that they can play and have fun? Those things are important. Rachel's also going to be in part of the YMCA Girls That's on the Run. I try to keep my kids active. It keeps them out of trouble and it keeps them exercising and having fun. And it doesn't have to be something as stringent as an after-school activity, but you can incorporate that if your child is interested. Talk to your kids about what they feel. What is being healthy? What does that mean? You know, a lot of times at the schools, they have people come in and do presentations. They have chefs come in. They have people from Michigan State Extension come in and do cooking demonstrations. And they actually have exercise physiologists that come in and show the kids different moves. So I ask the kids when the people come in, what does being healthy to you mean? What did you learn at school today? And they'll tell me, it means taking a walk, mommy. It means exercising for so many minutes outside the day. It means eating apples. It means eating broccoli. And so the kids are learning while they're in school. They come home, they teach me things. And so that makes me feel really good as a mom, knowing that those healthy behaviors are being taught at school as well. Now, if you look at this slide, it's kind of, I don't want to say depressing, but it is sad. This is what I grew up seeing. I grew up seeing multiple fast food restaurants, Church's Chicken, KFC, White Castles, Burger King, McDonald's. This is what I grew up eating on a regular basis. I grew up in a single family home. My mother went back to nursing school when my sister and I were really young. My grandmother, who's gone on to glory, she raised my sister and I, and she was retired from the Detroit school board. Her husband was deceased. And so she was able to spend a lot of time with my sister and I, but as she got older, she didn't cook as much. And so we ate out a lot. And so what I try to do is say, eating out is a treat. I'll tell my kids, maybe once a week or so, eating out is a treat. It's not just bad for your health, it's costly. And I could cook a pot of chili or a pot of spaghetti or make a big salad on a budget and stick within that budget. If you go to a fast food restaurant and I'm trying to feed 5 people and that meal is going to last one time, it's not economically feasible and it's unhealthy. So what you have to do is try to retrain your mind to not eat out as much. And if you do eat out, try to order from the kids menu or do the lunch special or cut your portion size in half. So there's ways around that too, but you really have to work at it. This is what I encourage, eating healthy. This is something I made at home, something really basic. It's tuna fish canned in water, low sodium, and I cut up some onions and some bell peppers and put some relish in there. And it's really good. It's affordable. It's easy. You can have it as a snack or as lunch. And I really pride myself on trying to eat better. I mean, there was one point in my life where I was overweight, where my blood pressure was high, my cholesterol was high, and I just wasn't happy with the way things were going health-wise. And so we did a challenge at work, a weight loss challenge, if you will, about 2016. And that's when I really started to focus in on my health. Now, being a dietitian, of course, you should practice what you preach, but not all people do that. And so when I was younger, I really never had to worry about my weight or my labs. Things were always good. But as you get older, there's things that you have to focus on. And so if you're focusing on that, then you're going to trickle down that information and help your child focus on eating well too. Because if I'm going to eat well, they're going to eat well. They're going to eat what I eat. This is another salad that I make at home. I make a spinach salad with grilled chicken, feta, tomato, and it's really good. It's healthy, it's quick, and we're not eating out the fast food restaurants. I consider it a win-win. I'm cooking at home, so I'm saving money, and I'm doing something healthy for my husband, myself, and our children. And then another salad I like to make is a berry salad. It has raspberries, blueberries, strawberries, feta cheese, and onions. And we use a raspberry vinaigrette. And the kids love it. It's colorful and they eat it up. And one thing I like to stress as to parents and grandparents, take your kids to the farmer's market, take them to the grocery store, let them pick out fruits and vegetables that they've never tried, find a new recipe, get them back in the kitchen cooking with you. I think, we need to get back to the basics, the slow cooker or the crock pot, and, cooking on the stove, getting in the kitchen, even if it's batch cooking on the weekend, but you have to start somewhere. And then in terms of fruit markets, not everybody has a fruit market in their neighborhood, but what you can do is buy frozen fruits or vegetables, or you can buy canned fruits or vegetables. But if you buy canned, you should do no added salt for the vegetables and no added sugar for the fruit. Now, this is me after I went on my weight loss challenge. I went to Louisiana and visited my sister and her husband, and they took me putt-putt golfing. And it felt good because at that point I had retrained my mind to, I'm going to be healthier and I'm going to live an active life. I have a 4-year-old, my husband and I, and we need to stay active so that we are around to help raise Hannah. And so a part of that is eating better and exercising. And again, kids mimic what they see. So if they see mom and dad live a healthy lifestyle, eat pretty well, 9 times out of 10, they're going to do the same. And if they're mimicking healthy behaviors, then we can reduce childhood obesity. Another important thing that I don't think people stress enough is that education or going to school is important. And people say, how is that important in terms of obesity? Well, I learned in one of my public health classes that people who have more education or better schooling tend to have better health outcomes. They can afford the gym memberships. They can afford to move into the neighborhoods with the nicer markets and not so much fast food. And so you have to stress to your kids that going to school, getting your education, studying and working hard is important because it's going to help you be successful throughout life. And you probably will have better health outcomes. And this is my oldest daughter, Peyton. She goes to Henry Ford Early College, where she'll be working on not just her high school diploma, but also her associate's degree at the same time. She eventually wants to go to school at Michigan State to become a veterinarian, which is an animal doctor. And she's very focused. I told her that you have to stay focused if you want to reach your goal. She's active. She's ran track, and she's been active in a lot of organizations, and she's very up on her health. She wants to live a healthy life. She eats really good. And so she's mimicked very well what her dad and mom does. And this is me at the University of Michigan, Flint, a 45-year-old African-American woman in grad school trying to live my best life with the help of the Lord. God has done great things for me in my life. There was a point in time in my life where I felt like I wasn't doing very well, eating very well. I was gluttonous. And at that time, I was not mimicking healthy behaviors for my children. But as time went on, I started to mimic those healthy behaviors, and I see them doing so much better. When I go grocery shopping or when they go with me, they don't always reach for junk. They're reaching for fruit. They're reaching for vegetables, and I say moderation is key. That's what they teach us as dietitians, moderation, everything in moderation. So I feel like we were doing a good job as parents. Parents were not perfect, but you're supposed to do the best that you can, again, with the help of the good Lord. And this is my reference page, just in case anyone wanted to see that. And if Ms. Campbell is allowed, we can open up the floor to any questions or comments.
Wow. This is awesome. I like the way that you presented so down to earth and in a fashion that anybody could understand and would not be intimidated by. So thank you. But before we do open up for questions, and we will, I want to say it's a timely reminder of how important good eating habits and exercise and exposure to sunshine is to our minds, our bodies, and our spirit. So we're going to ask Anita if she would come in right and talk a little bit about mental health and suicide, and also how all of this ties to obesity.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yes, this has been awesome. A lot of great takeaways, Kim. I just really, really appreciate you because definitely I feel all of us probably on this panel here could actually use definitely some of those nuggets. That salad was off the chain, had my mouth watering, and here the ones with the berries and stuff in it. So awesome, awesome. That is awesome. So just like Bettina said that there is a tie-in with this. So what I'm going to do is look at obesity, mental health, and then how that plays a part with our youth and their thought processes as far as bringing in suicide on there, bringing that awareness in, because we all know that September is Suicide Awareness Month. So I'm going to try to tie all of that in. I don't have a PowerPoint, so I'll be definitely just kind of reading from some notes. So just looking at obesity and mental health, we see a lot of that definitely here in Mississippi. One thing I took away from Kim is that how she sits and cut up the vegetables and the fruit and stuff for her babies to eat. And my mind easily and quickly went to those households who maybe mom and dad are not there and kids are just kind of grabbing, what they can and when they can. Definitely social media has taken a lot with our babies going outside, doing a whole lot of outside play. I love the way Kim kind of tied in the water play and riding bikes and stuff like that. Even at Christmas time, you don't see a whole lot of bikes and stuff being bought. Definitely for your older kids, your teenagers, it's more of maybe another video game or something like that. So let's look at this. Let's look at how obesity can actually cause mental health. And we're talking about our youth, about our babies on today. So we'll kind of keep it in that spectrum. So people that are living with obesity often struggle with significant increase in major depression, bipolar disorder, and panic disorder, or even agoraphobia, because now their weight has gotten up until now they want to isolate, they want to stay in, they don't want to come out, don't want people to see them. And we all know the signs and symptoms of depression, and it's pretty much the same signs and symptoms as in adults. We find that in our children today. Moreover, it is well established that overweight and obese youth also experience peer difficulty. So that's how we're going to tie in this thought process as far as our babies becoming, suicidal and just kind of want to end things with that peer difficulty, including victimizations, which are known risk factors for high rates of suicidal ideations and attempts. So there are also a variety of practical and social factors that can lead to mental health issues for patients living with obesity. And I'm going to cover several of these. We're going to look at the quality of life. We're going to look at the weight bias. We're going to look at the poor body image. And, with our babies, especially when you're looking at cheerleading, gymnastics, all of that, body image, psychological issues, and then we'll be wrapping up with going over into some suicide awareness. So let's look at the quality of life. being physically unable to do things that our kids love, such as attend fun events. And we all saw that Kim put some amazing things out there, but a lot of our babies are not participating in those things. Travel, being able to play outside with their friends or their neighbor, or even at recess. Obese kids, you tend to maybe see sitting over on the fence, or not being able to engage in dodgeball and stuff like that. Because when we look at obese, there comes health issues, maybe shortness of breath. These babies may be experiencing for being stimulated in running and jumping and skipping and stuff like that. So usually these kids, you find them during their recess and PE time, just kind of sitting as loners over on the bench there. And like I said, it could lead to social isolation, loneliness, and more difficulty coping with life hardships. They just feel that there is no point, because you're not going to find a whole lot of your upper junior high or even your lower high school kids. You're not going to find them with going to the gym or even getting out a walking trail or even riding a bike. I often wonder how many of our babies even still know how to ride a bike. If they had to, if that had to be like a mode of transportation, how many of them would actually struggle with that? They will probably get on a power operated scooter or something to get back and forth. So a lot of that can cause hardships. Chronic pain on its own. You find these kids are in pain a lot. Foot pain, finding it difficult, just getting up every day. So just think about that, just being a quality of life. You have this weight, you're being kind of talked about at school. So you come home and that leads to depression. And then it gets to the point where they no longer want to go to school. They no longer want to attend church. They no longer wants to be seen out with family, grocery setting, going to grocery stores, or even restaurant settings. So the next thing we want to look at is weight bias and discrimination. One of the biggest challenge for those struggling with weight issues is society's negative perspective on obesity. These unfavorable misperceptions can be widespread within families, among peers, in the workplace, and in the medical setting by healthcare providers. And some healthcare providers just I don't know. When you first come in and it's not that cordial conversation, oh, we got to lose weight. Oh, we got to get this weight off. And losing weight is a process. And I heard Kim talk about that rethinking of the mind. You literally got to get to the point of reprogramming your mind. And I know that that's got to be hard when you're thinking about a junior high or a early high school kid. We're trying to get that figured out. And I'm going to share some information. We're talking about weight bias and all of that. And I kind of want to link this to childhood diabetes. And that's one thing that obesity can actually cause. It actually can cause diabetes in our younger babies. I remember my daughter being 11 years old, and we were thinking that she was having maybe like a little small bout with maybe a kidney infection, but she was coming home every day saying that, she had to go use the bathroom really, really bad. And it got to the point where the teacher was kind of catching on to it. And one day this teacher would not allow her to go and use the restroom. So she came home just kind of frantic and talked to me about it. And I had noticed that she had been going to bed with like, a jug of water by her nightstand, or a Powerade or a Gatorade or something by her nightstand. And that was in lieu of she was very thirsty. So I said, well, maybe we need to just get it checked. And we were going, and she was a kind of thick, healthy girl. And we ended up going over into the clinic, and come to find out, my 11-year-old, her blood sugar was 598. 598. And we were not expecting that. So when you're looking at this weight and this bias, and obesity, it not only affects the child, but it actually affects the whole family. So we actually done a 2-week hospital stay, where they were getting her blood sugars down and maintained. So we were a new onset of juvenile diabetes. That, I kind of felt like unhealthy eating habits, and all of that. So as a family, I had to look at how we cook things. I had to look at how we bought groceries, no more Oreo cookies, snack cakes, potato chips, the juices, all of that had to go. So I kind of witnessed our whole entire family having to take that turn in order for my daughter to kind of be successful on this end of diabetes. That it was kind of new to us as a family, and all of that. So just looking at that bias, they can lead to discriminatory behavior. And one thing that I saw with her, because she was closely monitored at school, sometimes she could not eat as the other kids were eating. So just think, if you are sitting with your friends and they're having pancake on the stick with their regular serve, but you are just maybe having the meat out of the pancake on the stick, or maybe served with no sugar in it, and that's was not what she was used to. So when you're looking at that, kids were, you're seeing your kids eat these things. And so that I found that to be pretty hard for her. So we had to work on the weight management stuff. We had to kind of was kind of forced in having to look at how we were eating. Another thing about our obese babies is their body image. And if you remember me, talking about cheerleading, gymnastics, all of that, your basketball teams, all of that, where these kids in their mind wants to maintain this certain weight. And even though they do maintain that, it takes one person telling them, wow, you're gaining weight, wow, you're getting fat. And then, you're inviting all these unhealthy eating practices in there due to depression, because we know one of the signs and symptoms of depression is either poor appetite, you're either not eating, or you're eating too much. So we find these kids, due to obesity that leads to depression, they sometimes will quit eating. They'll go 2-3 days without eating because they're looking at their body image. Or you may find a child that will actually find themselves overeating as far as glutton. And that could definitely come from the theme, looking at body image, the mental health, as far as the depression, where they're just glut and eating. You find a lot of eating disorders too, as well, among our youth that are obese, or have the mindset that they're obese and there's not anything that can be done about that. So you find a lot of eating disorders around that age. The last thing that we kind of want to look at here is the psychological issues. There are also obesity related health factors that can negatively influence mental health. Research suggests that excess body fat and poor eating habits increase inflammatory markers. This heightened inflammation can lead to a higher risk of developing depression as well, and also plays a role in our immune system. The link between obesity and mental health issues is not a one-way street. While it is clear that excessive weight can take a toll on someone's emotional well-being, because once we're going back, we're talking about kids and we're talking about their self-esteem and how they have to hold this stance when they're with other peers of their age. It is also true that mental health conditions may influence a person's weight. Here are some examples. So when we look at chronic stress, anxiety, and depression, as well as mental health conditions like bipolar disorder, may cause someone to use food as a way to cope, Well, I'll just eat this away. I'll just find myself, since I'm already obese and nothing I can do about it, I'll just continue to glut. And the more you have your mindset that way, the more you're going to definitely find yourself doing that. And then when we look at the serotonin deficiency that's linked with depression, mood, interrupted sleep pattern, and anxiety, has been found to lead to carbohydrates craving and weight gain. So once again, that's that tie-in to depression. Children who are depressed may lack energy or desire to exercise or take part in other activities. So, and we as parents don't help that at times, because we would much rather see them on the video games rather than getting outside and engaging in that play that they need to be doing. So obesity and mental health issues also share, like I said, common factors, including low socioeconomic status, both of which can lead to depression and weight gain. So kind of wanted to bring those segments to you on how obesity can affect a child's mental health well-being. Now let's move over into suicide. We all know that September is Suicide Awareness Month, and we need to bring this awareness now more so than ever before. Suicide is on the rampage. I am seeing it more and more here, with the thought process of even our babies, or in having the mindset of they no longer want to be here, and stuff. And I've seen and heard this from even 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, so this thing has really gotten has really gotten very serious, definitely with our youth, when our youth is concerned. Well, really anybody, but more so we're talking about youth on today. So let me just for a brief moment, just kind of want to bring some awareness about suicide. So what is suicide? Suicide is when people harm themselves with the goal of ending their life, and they die as a result. So that's suicide. On the other side of suicide, we have an attempt. An attempt is when people harm themselves with the goal of ending their lives, but they do not die. So they attempt and they do not die, or either they actually commit suicide. So I kind of wanted to bring those two definitions to you today. One research in 2021, suicide was the second leading cause of death for people ages 10 to 14 and 25 to 34. But look at this. It was the 10th leading cause of death for ages 5 to 9. 5 to 9. And that could be from lots of things: social economics, family situations, all of those things. But we know suicide is a serious public problem that can have long-lasting effects on individuals, families, and communities. The good news is that suicide is preventable. Preventing suicide requires strategies at all levels of society. This includes prevention and protective strategies for individuals, families, and communities. Everyone can help prevent suicide by learning the warning signs, promoting prevention and resilience, and committing to social change. Who is at risk for suicide? And we know we're talking about babies today, but people of all gender, ages, ethnicities can be at risk for suicide. It's just like mental health. There's no age limit. Mental health does not discriminate. And one thing with suicide, we just can't assume that that people are not contemplating or thinking that. A history, main risk factors for suicide, or there's a history of suicide, maybe in the family, maybe our kids have witnessed someone taking their lives, or maybe have even heard of someone taking their lives. Look at this: depression or other mental disorders is one of the risk factors for suicide, having suicidal ideation. Chronic pain, we talked about over how obesity causes pain with our kids and teenagers. So chronic pain, family history of mental disorder or substance use, and like I said, a family history of suicide. Now, let's bring this home and let's just kind of look at the warning signs. How would you know if a child is actually thinking about suicide? The only way you're going to know that is to ask. Do not be afraid to have that conversation with babies, especially if you know that there are family situations going on. Definitely, if you're seeing the signs and symptoms of depression, and actually on the depression scale, that is a question that we do have to ask. Are you having active thoughts of wanting to hurt yourself? So don't be afraid to ask that. And asking about suicide does not plant the thought or the seed of someone actually thinking about that. So when it comes to our babies, it may get to the point where, look at this one, thinking they are a burden to their parents. Sometimes just kids overhearing parents talk about financial difficulties, talking about how they're going to get the bill paid, how they're going to sponsor their child maybe in this sport or that sport. So just them listening to that can actually put them feeling like, hey, I'm a burden, and maybe, the family would be better off if I'm not there. Saying goodbye to family and friends, just, hey, you know what, one day this will be over, and just having those plans like that. Isolation is a big one with our kids. They just isolated. They're staying in their room, they're not coming out, and then it's almost to the point where they're not interested in any of the things that they used to be in. With our other upper kids, there's increasing use of, when you're looking at alcohol use, when you're looking at substance use, this can actually be one of the warning signs that hey, there may be something going on. So all of that to say, these are things that we do not need to take lightly, especially when it comes to our babies. And I am a firm believer that we're in a day and time that we don't need to assume anything. And there is nothing wrong with asking. As parents, being proactive on the front end will definitely help us to not be in that reactive mode on the down end, where we're saying, you know what, I didn't see that coming, or I missed that. I missed that. So I'm gonna leave you with these 5 action steps that we all can take, whether this is a child or an adult. Always ask. Always ask. Especially if you know that there's some down moments, are you thinking about killing yourself? And then the next thing you want to do, if that question is yes, you want to seek immediate help. You want to get this person, you don't want to leave their presence. You definitely want to get them to the medical professions. I would not go home, go to bed on it, and just assume that it's going to be okay in the morning. ER, get them to the ER. Or there is definitely another suicide hotline, which is dial 988. Dial 9. If you can't remember 988, we can always remember 911. You definitely want to do all that you can to keep that person safe, but you don't want to assume that they will be okay. And even if they have said this before in the past and haven't done anything, you need to treat every incident serious. The last thing is be there. Don't leave them, be there. Just let them know, hey, I'm going to see you through this. I'm going to make sure that you get to the right place where you need to be. And then you want to help them connect. Like I said, connect with the medical professionals, your therapist, your psychiatrist, and all of that. And then you want to stay connected with them. Just let them know, hey, I am here for you. So that concludes my presentation on mental health and suicide awareness for the month of September.
Wow. Thank you so very much. Both of you ladies have given us a lot to think about, and we see the connections. And so again, we know that how important it is that we ask, and we get them on the front end, that we get them thinking about healthy eating and actually engaging in healthy eating, so that and that includes getting them out into sunshine and getting them physically active and eating right. So that hopefully on the back end, we're not having to deal with suicide ideations or suicide completions. So if we're open for questions, if there are any questions, and we want to again encourage you to share today's webinar with your family, with your friends, with your community. And then we want to make sure that are there any questions in the comment section, Duke, on the platforms, or if there are questions on Zoom, please feel free to open up your mic and ask those questions. Or if you don't want to open up your mic, please feel free to put them in the chat. So we're open for questions. Well, I do. We talked a lot about age, but we never really defined an age. Is there a time that's too early to start talking to your children, Kim, about healthy eating habits?
I would say no. I started talking to all my girls in the womb, because they can hear everything, right? They have ears. But, start at a young age. I work for Women, Infants, and Children, which is the WIC program. And I service pregnant moms and kids all the way up until the age of 5, and start early. The earlier, the better, because if you start early, they'll remember those conversations and they'll want to eat healthier. I think as a children absorb a lot. And I think we don't give them credit for that. They're little sponges. That's why you have to watch what you say in front of kids. As the other professional was saying, you don't want to say anything negative or too heavy, because we don't want to put that weight on kids. So if you start the conversation early, you won't start late and having to backtrack like, oh, Doritos, that's not good for you. You should have said that 5 years ago. So I think the earlier, the better.
Wonderful. Anita, I do have one more question for you. You talked about children eating this, just all of a sudden they just start eating a lot. I might say, should we assume that they are just hungry, or that they're just, as you say, being gluttony, or should we start to think about maybe there's something physically wrong and get that checked out, or maybe even mentally wrong?
Yes.
Does that apply to all ages?
Yes, I would definitely say so, especially if they're gluttony eating, because even with diabetes, if your sugar is low, you are eating. If your sugar is even high, you find yourself hungry all the time. And we also know that appetite goes along definitely with depression. So a lot of these babies eat to feel better. And then again, there's eating disorders too that are out there. So a lot of these kids glut and eat, and then they're throwing up. So eating disorders could definitely with parents, we just need to keep our eyes and ears open. Notice those changes and stuff. So yes, all ages.
Okay, then we will do one more question. It says, for both presenters, how do you work with the obese child on eating healthier, exercising, and positive attitude after they've gained all the weight, especially when you see signs of depression?
That's good.
So do you want to go first, Miss Anita, or?
Yeah, I can. What I would typically do here in an office setting is start working on that thought process. A lot of times these kids come with self-esteem issues, so making them aware of feeling good about themselves. And once I see that a child is feeling good about themselves, then they'll actually get in the mode of wanting to do good for themselves. So reprogramming that thought process, attacking that self-esteem pretty heavy by putting in those positive thoughts, reframing things, re-looking at things in there. So that's how I would attack it. On the mental health part, it would be more in that self-esteem and building up that positive image of what they have of themselves.
Okay.
I like that. And then in terms of children that I have counseled, I ask them, what are some of the small changes that they feel like they can make? Being a dietitian for 20 years, I can go in and say, eat this, eat that, no, no, no. But then they don't listen. So I like to say, what are 2 to 3 things that you feel that you could do to make a better change? And they typically can name 2 or 3 things. They write that down. We kind of make a little contract, and then I'll see them back in a month, where they'll weigh. And if they don't want to weigh and see it, they can weigh backwards, because they don't always want to see what that number is. So we can weigh backwards and I can track it. And typically that works. And, I let them drive their own car. I said, I'm going to let you drive your own car today. You're going to tell me what you want to do. And I work with them like that. And as a Christian woman, I pray. So I pray for all my students and all my clients. I said, with God, all things are possible. So that's the kind of mindset I try to keep. But just don't go in saying no, no, no. Because if someone already has low self-esteem, if they have depression, that's the last thing you want to do is beat them down.
Right.
You want to say, what can you do? And I can help you do that.
Yeah. Wonderful. So, and keep from what I hear both of you saying is that it's important to work on both at the same time, because overeating feeds mental health. Mental health feeds overeating. So it's important to find aspects of both issues that you can work on at one time. And I do love the idea of letting them drive the car. So again, I want to say thank you to both of you. It was awesome having you here. And I think that we were reminded of a lot of behaviors and thoughts that we engage in that are maybe not healthy, not only for us, but for our children. And that this is a wonderful, timely reminder. This is awareness month to reevaluate our thoughts and change our thinking, so that we can have a better job of working on our behaviors across mind, body, and spirit. So thank you both. I just want to give you some reminders of what's coming up on Monday, September 25th at 6 p.m. Remember to please join Mary and Pat for the Ask Mary and Pat Zoom. And those webinars are about Medicaid and CHIP and affordable care, mainly Medicaid and CHIP. So if you have questions about your health insurance, or you don't have any health insurance, it's a wonderful time to join in at 6 p.m. on September the 25th and find out what you need to do in order to make sure that your family has the health insurance that it needs so that we can, having health insurance actually helps us prevent some of the things that we talked about today. And if they're already there, it also helps us to be able to intervene and to put in place those things that we need to put in place to keep ourselves and our families healthy, so that we can enjoy life more abundantly. And then on the third Wednesday of next month, it's National Bullying Prevention Month. And so we will have a wonderful surprise to highlight that National Awareness Day. And so we would love for you to please come back again on on October 18th. Join us for our show, and we want to encourage our family and our friends not to miss it also. So once again, we acknowledge our board chair, Jennifer Garrett, and our executive director, Dr. Michael O. Miner. We also want to remind you that you can learn more about us at www.oakhillregionalcdc.com and www.healthykidsmississippi.org. Once again, that's www.oakhillregionalcdc.com and www.healthykidsmississippi.org. Remember that the Oak Hill, this has been a production from the Oak Hill Regional Community Development Corporation, where we are belonging, building, and bridging in the Mid-South region and across the state of Mississippi. Again, thank you very much. We will be signing off on our social media pages. Those of you who are on Zoom, if you have time, please stick around for a few minutes and we will wind down.